Okay, guys, so just if you wouldn't mind to start off, you have 3 adopted black children. How did that happen?
Yeah, so with Evelyn, we decided to adopt overseas in Democratic Republic of Congo. And so we knew going into it, we were about to start a transracial adoption. And we prepared ourselves. We got like a lot of training on what that would look like. And so that was expected. As far as Matea and Asher, we did not know what their race was going to be going into it. We just were open to the need. And
That was a domestic adoption.
yes, that was domestic. They're from Texas.
Okay.
And so I remember when they presented them to us, we hadn't seen a picture or anything. We just heard their names and their ages, and we felt like we wanted to pursue it. And then they sent us a picture, and we saw that they were black, which was kind of cool because Evelyn had said, I want an older sister who looks like me, long before we even started that adoption. So God already planted that seed.
Has this opened your eyes to racial issues that you didn't even know existed before?
Yeah. To me, racism was something that kind of took place in the past, and that it was kind of like we had overcome that. But the more my eyes were open to it, the more I realized that that was more of a segregation issue that we have overcome. But racism is still very much alive and still exists today. It just is in a different form. And a lot of us have biases within us that we aren't even aware of. So having raised 3 black kids and raising 3 black kids, there's a lot of things that are brought to our attention, which I know Amanda has a story that she'll share, but that just brings it to light to us that it's still very much alive and it's still there.
We had to address something really early on. I'll be brief, but Evelyn in kindergarten came home crying one day because she wasn't invited to a birthday party because the girl said she wasn't allowed to have black friends, basically. Wow. And so Evelyn had never realized that was even a thing. She obviously knew she was black, but it wasn't something that we really focused on that much. But then that was a turning point for sure. And thankfully, Matea was a part of our family at that time, and she was able to talk to Evelyn about something she had faced, and just one of those moments where you realize, I can't relate. Right. I can't help you with that. I can empathize with you, but I can't ever understand. So that was definitely a moment.
Since you have brought in these children into your lives, you've been exposed to things. Has that shown you prejudice that you had that you didn't know you had? Because I feel like that's a learning opportunity for some of us that don't have your experiences. If you're saying, hey, I'd never thought about this before, but consider this. Has that happened to you in the course of the last? Okay.
Yeah. I have a funny story that I'm going to share, and I didn't prep this one, but I remember when Asher and Matea first came to live with us, and we were talking about just, race, and Amanda said, David's white, and Asher's like, wait, Dad, you're white? And I was just like, but that comment came with a lot of loaded things that obviously have been fed into his life of how a white person was.
Yeah, his perspective of David started to shift then because of things he'd been fed. So
it's just ingrained in what we're taught. It's not necessarily the color, but it's what we're told of how we are. But
I do get concerned just because I've heard stories from the black men in our lives who have said you have to watch and be careful of Asher, and that he is not wearing a hoodie when he's out, and he's not out at night. The older he gets and the taller he gets, and that he's in good areas, well lit, all these things. I know one of my friends, she's a black woman, but she was saying that she, even if it's late at night and she's at the mall or somewhere, she tries not to even be in a group of people because it's suspicious. People will be they just get asked questions by the security or something, when really they're just there hanging out. So they try to limit their numbers. That's stuff we've never had to think about. Right. And so things like that is just, I don't know that it's necessarily something that's a bias. I don't know that I'm answering your question in that way, but just hearing those stories, I would have never known those stories had I not asked, and I don't think I would have asked had I not adopted black children. So that's an issue that I needed to face, that I should have been doing this a long time ago.
I do want to say that we love everyone here at Drome. They're like family to us, and I know a lot of the times it's scary. You don't know how to approach or ask the right question, and you might be offensive. But I want to like open up to Amanda and I are open to anyone asking questions. We're not going to be offended by anything.
We grew up listening to Dr. Martin Luther King's dream of a day where people would be judged on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And yet we here don't ignore the color of the skin, don't deny the experiences that Black people have. How do those two things come together? And that may be a very difficult question to try to answer, but certainly we do want to judge somebody not on the color of their skin, but we don't want to ignore the color of their skin and the unique challenges that it presents. Am I forming a question
No,
here that
that's
makes
good.
sense?
I mean, I haven't had time to think about it, but my initial response is that, like, just like if you're talking to, you know, a friend who's maybe going through a divorce or going through a hard time, like, you can't, and maybe you're still married and you've never gone through that. It's like, you wouldn't go to them and be like, I know exactly how it feels to go through this divorce. You would go to them and acknowledge that that's like their experience, but you also don't make that their identity either, where it's like they are their struggle. No, you recognize it, but you also know that there's so much more than that at the same time. I guess
That's a great
the
answer.
only way I can
It's
think of
better
it.
than he was ever going to come up with.
I was still thinking what the
Yeah,
question was.